When David sees someone in need of assistance, he steps up, and that's exactly what he did in Terry's case. He saw someone in need of assistance, and he stepped up. And it's for that, and for all of the other reasons that I talked about, that we're giving David this award tonight. So David, will you join us on stage?
I just want to say a brief couple of words. Thank you. It's really gratifying to receive something like this. But, you know, if it's not obvious, it should be that, in fact, no one person does something like this. So in addition to all the people that Julie has mentioned, and Julie herself, who would have carried the stove if it had been a little bit less nasty, a whole host of attorneys, paralegals, legal assistants from Maslon also chipped in. And I'd like to especially mention Erica Holzer, a young, fabulously talented attorney who's with us tonight, who did some fundamental research and some great writing at the very end when it mattered most to whether or not Terry was actually going to get out of prison, despite the fact that the prosecutor wanted him to. It was a little bit in doubt. So thank you, Erica. I had an opportunity earlier today to talk to some people about the case. They asked me about it and what was challenging, and I was explaining that what was challenging about the case for me as a lawyer was, you know, I was convinced, I know that I had an innocent man, and he needed to get out of prison, and of course I had no control over that process. And as I was explaining it, I was realizing, you know, every time as a lawyer you're competitive, you get a ruling you don't like, you sort of get down, oh God, woe is me, oh, isn't this terrible? And then of course you realize that, you know, we're going to go tomorrow to the Court of Appeals, but the person who has the challenge and the people that have the challenge who suffer through this are the Terry Olsons of the world and Terry Olson's family. So they're the people that really do the hard work in this, hard work that none of us in this audience really want to or really can imagine undertaking. So Terry, I apologize on behalf of the system. One last word about Terry's case, if I can just take a minute. You've heard a little bit about it on the video, but most of you may know Terry didn't get a judicial declaration of innocence. He didn't get a formal exoneration. But in the court of public opinion, Terry has been judged an innocent man. And I want to take literally just a few seconds to talk about why that judgment is absolutely correct. And I'll talk about what the evidence was not and what it was. What the evidence was not? There was no forensic evidence found at the scene where the body was found. No footprints, no signs of a struggle, no tire tracks, no nothing. No vomit, no cigarettes, cigarette butts, nothing. The only thing that indicated the presence of any human being at all was the fact that there was a body dead on the side of the road. No evidence of motive. Never was any evidence of motive. Terry Olson, who went on to be an engineer, just decided to kill some guy that he had just met about a week before that. No evidence of motive. So what was the evidence that convicted him? If you think of his conviction as a three-legged stool, the first leg was the coerced confession of a mentally ill, very vulnerable man who, under intense pressure by police, told a story that was different from the story he had told for 24 years before and several years after. That's leg of the stool number one. The police take that leg and they go to the medical examiner. Now it's a different medical examiner, it's 25 years later than the one that conducted the autopsy, and they tell her, you got to change the death certificate from undetermined to homicide. Well, why is that? Well, we've done a new investigation. What did you find? Well, we have an eyewitness to the crime. And the medical examiner felt pressured, and in fact, she didn't even read the statement. The eyewitness to the crime turns out to be none other than Dale Todd, the guy who was coerced into a confession. But you got an eyewitness, it must be a homicide, so I'll change the death certificate. You never get an indictment in this case without a death certificate that says it was a homicide, not undetermined. Third leg of the stool, they have to shore up the evidence against Terry because they've already gone to trial against Ron Michaels and lost because Dale Todd said, you know what, I lied, I was coerced, never happened, never there. So they bring in not one, not two, but 6 inmates who are awaiting sentencing on serious federal crimes, who in exchange for some better treatment on sentencing, all testify that Terry Olson decided after 24 years of denying involvement in the crime that these 6 priests of prison were his confessors. And of course the 6 of them couldn't get their story straight. The confessions were internally inconsistent, and those 6 guys were matched by 4 other inmates who came forward and said, he never said any such thing. He never talked to those guys, and every time I ever talked to him, he said he was innocent. And those 4 guys had nothing to gain, as opposed to the 6 who couldn't get their story straight and had everything to gain and did gain. You knock out one leg of a stool, it falls over. You knock out 3 legs of a stool, you got nothing to sit on. And that's Terry's case. You got nothing to sit on. It never should have been prosecuted, judicial declaration or not. He's an innocent man. And the person here who really deserves our applause and our thank you in many ways is Terry Olson, who is the real person with courage and integrity and wherewithal to go through this for 11 years. So, Terry.